Hello world, and welcome back to our Prison Architect tutorial. Alright, there's a couple things I wanted to mention that I didn't mention in the last episode. One is that this is an Alpha 31 video, or this is the version I'm using. What that means is currently the game is in alpha, at least when I'm recording this tutorial. What this means is that every month the developers of this game are going to be adding new content to this game, which is going to change what I'm saying in this tutorial slightly, but overall it should be generally the same. They got most of the core gameplay features in, so none of the basics should change. So if you're trying to watch this tutorial to learn how to play this game, watching this tutorial should still be very helpful. Second is there's one big thing I didn't mention in the last episode, and that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about in this episode, which is how to move around. It's so intuitive to me, I've been playing this for so much, I didn't mention it. To move around, there's two ways. One is to move the screen left and right and up and down, and there's two different ways to do that. One is with the WASD keys, so A is left, D is right, W is up, S is down, and you can do the same thing with the arrow keys, using the arrows to go in the respective directions. You can also use the mouse by pushing up to the top of the screen. You can move the screen up, move the mouse to the left, I have a split screen, so it doesn't work for me for the right. So I don't even use the arrow keys anyway, but likewise the same for the down. And then to zoom in and out, you can use the scroll wheel on the mouse, and that's what I use. And that is how you move around, and that's how you look around. So if you want to look at this worker here, or you want to look at the holding cell we built in the last episode, then you can just use the arrow keys and the mouse. Anyway, in the last episode we built these two buildings, and we only put one of these rooms in. So let's put in these other rooms. So the first room we're going to be putting in here is reception. And this is where your prisoners are first taken when they arrive. And so if you've seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, this is where they get cleaned up, this is where they get checked for all the contraband, this is where they get their new clothes. So this is the first thing they go in, and if you look, it doesn't have to be a 5x5 room, but you're going to want it 5x5 in case you have a lot of prisoners coming in at once. So you could make it like a just very small room, but I like having it 5x5 just because then everything's nice and square, and I like that. Alright, well it is indoors, so if we hit play you'll see that it's indoors, but we need an office desk, a table, and a chair. So again, we can go to objects and search for that, chair. Alright, and we can rotate around with R. Oops, and then objects, we need the desk, and make it our office desk. We're going to rotate that around with R. And then we need a table. Table. That is not a table. Table. And we'll put that there. Hit play. So while we're waiting for that room, we'll go and put this room right here next to it. So we're going to put visitation right here. Visitation you don't have to have, but I'm just preparing for the future, in which it's nice to have visitation right away. And if we look, all it needs is a visitor table. So we go to objects, visitor table. And so this is for when the family of your prisoners are going to want to come and visit. Oops. Okay. So I messed up there, and I'm going to show you what I did. I put the table, I didn't put it where I want it, and you can, I queued it up, but it hasn't been built yet. And you right click it, and it goes away. I'm going to want 3 tables in here, and they're kind of crunched up next to each other, but that should be fine. All the prisoners and guests should be able to go in and out. And there's a reason I want it to be as close to the entrance as possible, so that because the guests are really stupid and they don't really know the prison, so they're going to come up from this road just like everything else does. And so you want it close to this right here, so that the guests can come in and out as fast as possible, so that you don't have a huge backlog of visitors. And obviously, when we expand this prison if we get this to be a huge prison, which we won't because this is a small map, but if we had a huge prison, we probably need either another visitation room or a much bigger one. But for right now, this is going to be good. And you want 3 tables in because there's going to be a grant coming up, which is have visitation with 3 visitor tables. And finally, this is a little preemptive, but we're going to put parole in. And again, I want it right here near the entrance, because if the person does get off on parole, I want them to be able to leave the prison as quickly as possible. And so I like to put that near the entrance. And parole is halfway through the prisoner's term in the prison, and at 3/4 through their sentence, they can be let off early. So this is basically like, oh, they got off early for good behavior, or if they learned their lesson, or if more evidence find out that they maybe the crime they committed wasn't as serious as it was thought, or whatever the case, if the lawyer and the warden and all the people in charge of the prison and the legal stuff determine that, hey, this person should be let out early, then that's what parole is. Parole is letting out prisoners early. And as you can see, this is an indoor 5x5 room, and all it needs is a visitor table. So go to Object, Visitor Table. So again, this is a little early in the prison. You don't really need parole, but I find it's nice to have it nice and early, because if you don't have it, prisoners get very, very grumpy because they're not going to be let out on time. Now that we have our entrance mostly complete, we need to start working on building our basic detention center. And right now we only have one of the rooms. We have the holding cell complete. We're going to need a shower, a yard, a kitchen, a canteen, 2 guards, and 2 cooks. Also down here, we're going to need to hire a warden. So to hire staff, you go to staff right here. And this is how you hire staff. And as you can see, a lot of them are grayed out. And we need to unlock them. And the person who unlocks everything is the warden. So we're going to place our warden down. We could only have 1 warden, that's why it says 1 out of 1. If it doesn't say any 1 out of 1 stuff, that means you can hire as many as possible. Or not as many as possible, as many as you want. But each of them costs money per day. So if you look, right now, each cook costs $100 per day. And each workman costs $100 per day. And each guard costs $100 per day. So the more workers you have, the more expensive it is. So it's generally a good idea not to have too many of workmen, guards, cooks, all the employees. It's best to try and have as little as possible. But obviously the more you have, the more powerful the effect is. Obviously the more cooks you have, the more food can be cooked. So once your prison gets bigger and bigger, you're going to want to have more and more cooks. So we're just going to hire the 2 cooks so we don't forget about it. We're going to hire the 2 guards so we don't forget about it. We already hired our warden. Now you hear that bell, ding! That means you've completed something on your checklist. As you can pause, we hired our 2 guards, we hired our 2 cooks, and we hired our warden. But our warden, as I said, is to research stuff, but it can't research anything unless he has an office. And this is where the warden works. And once we do build an office, which we're going to do in just a moment, you're going to go up here to Bureaucracy, and this is the tree of all the things that you can unlock. And obviously the warden is necessary for everything. Everything ties to the warden. And so all these different things allow you to have new different features. All of them are very useful. Probably some of the most useful if you're really early on and trying to figure out what's going on is psychology, since they tell you what your prisoners' needs are, so you can figure out what exactly you're failing to meet. Another good one is finance, since it helps you figure out how you're spending your money, and it also gives you more abilities to earn money. Security is also pretty good, but before we can unlock anything, we're going to need to get our warden an office. So we need an office. Now, if we go to rooms, we can search for the room we're looking for, office. And there it is. And if we hover over, we can look at the requirements. It's a 4x4 room with an office desk, chair, filing cabinet. It has to be indoors. And this is the basic process you do every time you're trying to build a new room, is you try and look up what the room it is, and you're going to see what the requirements are. Once you look for the requirements and make sure you meet them all, you'll struggle a lot less to figure out what's going wrong with your prison. Because oftentimes, even I do this as I mess up and I build a room that's too small. It doesn't meet the requirements. Big example is I make one, or I try and build a room like a library or whatever, and I make it really, really long, but I try and make it really, really narrow, and that doesn't meet the requirement because it can't be like the size 4x4 doesn't mean it has to be 16 square surface area. It means the minimum size is 4, and the minimum height is 4, and the minimum width is 4. So obviously you can build an office that's 10 by 10, but that would be a big waste of space. So we're gonna go and plan this out. And I like having my offices near the entrance of my prison, so we're going to plan the walls. And right now, I'm going to put it here. Now, obviously, if it's 4x4, then the width needs to be 6 because each wall is 1 thick and there's 1 on each side, and so it needs to be a 6x6 room. But I'm going to preemptively build some other offices as well. So this is going to be there's going to be room for 4 offices here, and so there we go. We planned that out. Now we can place the foundation for it. And there we go. Now, we're going to also plan out the rest of this, because we need a shower, a yard, a kitchen, and a canteen. The kitchen and canteen are probably, out of all of this, the kitchen and canteen are the most important, since that is how prisoners get their food. And if one thing that prisoners don't like more than anything else, it's being hungry. And there's a grant which basically forces you to starve your prisoners as a psychological experiment. And I hate doing that because the prisoners hate it, and it causes huge problems, and I don't like it. But if you're new to this game, just want to let you know, this is one of the easiest ways to avoid a conflict really early on, is make sure you have these two things in place. Make sure you have your kitchen and canteen. Kitchen is where the food is going to be prepared, and canteen is where the prisoners are going to go and eat it. So we're going to plan it out, and let's look at the requirements for the kitchen and the canteen. Kitchen, alright. As you can see, it's highlighted, which means we have to do it. It has to be indoors, it has to have a cooker, a fridge, and a sink. The cooker is to prepare the food, the fridge is to store the food, and the sink is to clean up after the dishes. And then the canteen, canteen. Indoors, a serving table, so this is where the prisoners are going to get their food. The table, where they're going to eat it, and the bench, which is where they're going to sit down. And they don't actually, the bench doesn't have to be by a table. And in fact, you only need one table, and you could just put benches in. In fact, you can only just put chairs in. But I like to have it somewhat realistic. I like to use the tables and benches. You could just you just put one table, one bench. It would meet the requirements of the canteen and put all chairs in. And so if you're really struggling, you could do that, but we're not going to do that. Now I'm just going to measure out just a reasonable sized building. And as you can see, the bigger the building, the bigger the foundation, the more expensive it is. And so if you try and build a huge building, that's going to be really problematic early on, because not only is it going to be a lot of money, but it's going to take a long time to build. So I'm just going to do an average sized building. I'm going to try and have it be about, I don't like everything be perfectly square, but I like everything nice and neat. So I'm just going to put the square here for now. And then we're going to need an entrance for it. Now, I'm going to put the entrance on this side because that's where the rest of the prisoners and prison is going to be. So the prisoners are going to be somewhere here or somewhere. And you want to have the door close to where the prisoners are going to be, just to make everything run as smoothly as possible. Door. Oops, that's the rooms. Oops. You're going to go to objects, door. And we're just going to put a normal door so the prisoners can get in and out efficiently. We're going to rotate it. And there we go. And you can place the door before, and there we go. Now we can speed up time as they wait and build everything. Or we can not, and we can work on the next task that we have to do. You're going to want to have this entryway where all the stuff comes in secure, as well as the rest of the prison. So the best way to do that is to build a fence, which is considered to be a wall. And fences are pretty cheap. Now you can go and you can put the fence up to the sidewalk and up along here. We're going to just go past here. We're going to go right here. And we can just box in this whole area here. So we're just placing these walls. And I kind of messed up a little bit. And there we go. Now you may notice that these trees are in the way. And what's this red box mean is that it's going to be dismantled. And so you may have seen this early on. This is where they dismantled a couple trees. And this is just going to be wood. Wood can be useful in your prison later on. And in fact, one of the rooms is called forestry, where you can actually grow your own trees, cut them down, and turn them into products. But for now, we can go, if we want to get rid of them, we can click it. And it gives you a bunch of options you can do, and you can sell it, and it gives you a little bit of money. And there you go. Now, if we go over to our objects, road gate. Now you may have noticed that right now there is a big hole in the fence right where the road is. And yes, prisoners will take advantage of that if you don't put in this road gate. And the road gate is just big enough to be the road and the sidewalk. So you put one here, you put one here, and now this area up here in front of the prison is going to be secure. So once the prisoners get unloaded into here, they'll be safe and secure. So once this door closes behind them, they'll be in your prison, and then this area right here is going to be entirely secure. So they have to go through the entrance of the prison, which is why I designed it this way. And obviously, we can change this fence once we need more room. But for now, this is going to be very perfect. So right now we have our secure entrance, and we're going to have our secure rest of the prison. And so that's kind of one of the way I like doing it this way. I like having a nice fancy entrance with walls, because walls make it harder for prisoners to tunnel through. Prisoners can tunnel underneath the ground, and so it's a good idea to put walls near the entrance so they can't just escape through the entrance. And you also just put your walls around so they just can't walk out, and that's really important. Now you may notice right now it is very dark. There is a day-night cycle in this game. So right now it's night, and as you can see, it's almost 1 in the morning. So yeah, obviously it makes sense that it's going to be dark out. So right now they built the foundation for this office here, and we're going to want to put in a door. Now there's one more type of door I didn't mention, and that is the staff door. So we put the staff door. The staff door means staff can open it, but prisoners can't. So guards and your workers and all your other people, they can enter it just fine, but your prisoners can't. Now this door isn't very strong. And if we go to door, normal jail doors are a lot cheaper than the solitary door, but it's not quite as strong. This is a super strong door. And this remote door, I'm going to just tell you, do not get it until you unlock door control and have a bunch of people, because this door will not be able to be opened, and it will just cause huge problems. It will be sealed shut forever until you unlock this. And since we don't even have our warden, we can't even start to unlock it. So do not put any remote doors in. So, and then there's obviously large jail doors, which are like 2 jail doors next to each other. Now that we have our guards, I feel comfortable putting these doors in this area. I'll just put 1 in for now. Now as you can see, it's taken a long time for our workers to build this fence. So we can solve this by hiring some more workmen. You can just put them in. You can see the workmen kind of have flashlights, so they can see what they're doing at all times. But if you really want to, you can go to objects. There are lights. You can put your own lights in, and if you put them outside, they'll kind of power themselves. So we'll just put in, for an example, we'll put in 1 here and here. Now our warden's still waiting on his office, but right now we just got this in. But as you can see, our workmen's installing the indoor lights, but there's no power into it, so we're just going to need to go and extend the power. So we're just going to keep reaching out, and we're just going to power up all these rooms. Let's just put in the rest of these walls. Alright. I think these offices are going to be a little bigger than normal, or maybe not. Oh no, just this one's going to be bigger than normal. So we'll make that the warden's office. So we'll go to rooms, we'll go to office. There we go. I'll do this whole thing. Yeah, this one's a little bigger than normal, but everything else is just going to be just nice and fine. Office. You just keep putting in all these offices. And of course, you can repurpose a room once you place it. So I can go, let's say I want to make this a staff room, which is a very nice thing to have, especially early on in the game. We can make that a staff room. And what the staff room does is actually a really important room to have early on, is it makes it so your staff can rest, because your staff will get tired. So maybe we'll make this a staff room and then build more offices as we need them. So we need a wide sofa and a drink machine. So wide, oops, this is rooms, not objects. Wide sofa, put that right there, and a drink machine. I'll just put that in the corner. There you go. So it's morning now, really early in the morning. Our fence is complete, or mostly complete. Now our prisoners are going to build the rest of these offices. Now we need to go and we need to build the rest of this room here. And this is going to be our kitchen canteen. So I'm just going to put a wall through the center of this. This is going to separate the canteen and the kitchen. So this small portion right here is going to be the canteen. And I'll just designate that now. And then we'll put in the oops, that's the canteen. I wanted this to be the kitchen. Right, have that be the kitchen, have this be the canteen. Now this can be a problem, is if there's any workers on this side, they'll be trapped in. This is going to be a box. So it's always a good idea to make sure you put in plenty of doors. Alright, so we're going to put a staff door here, so that our workers, our cooks, can go and get it quick in and out, but everyone else can't get in the kitchen. And we'll put one in here so that they can go and... so that our workers, once they prepare the food, can bring it into the canteen. Now, I have been speeding up time a lot. Right now we only have 1 hour before our prisoners are going to show up. And they're going to show up in the truck at the top of this road just like everything else. So we kind of need to hurry because we're going to want to go and make sure we have our kitchen canteen working. But our yard is going to be super easy. Now that we have this fence, this whole box here is considered to be secure, which is one of the requirements for the yard. So we go to the yard, it has to be at least 5x5 and it has to be secure. It means that just you can't walk out from the side of the map. So since it's walled in by fence, we can just put our yard like right here. Bam. So, there we go. And that ding means that it satisfied the requirements of building a yard. Now, obviously, our kitchen and canteen is going to need power. So we're going to go and put some power in here. And our offices are starting to look good. And we're just going to put everything in the office. Now, here's a neat trick that they added. I don't know when they added it. But once you designate a room, everything that goes in that room is highlighted. So if I zoom in on this office, I can see what needs to be put in. So I need to put an office desk, a chair, and a filing cabinet. And we'll just put in the rest of this. Put in the filing cabinets in the corner. And we'll put in the chair right here. Here. We already put the chair in there. And then the desk. And there we go. Then we'll have our offices. And we're going to need to finish this kitchen canteen. So we can just go zoom in on the kitchen and they'll have everything we need. We'll need our... Oh, careful though, because right now it's highlighting both the kitchen stuff and the canteen stuff. So you got to kind of zoom in the kitchen so you can see the stuff we need. So we need a sink. We'll have a cooker. We'll have 2 cookers. And we'll have 2 fridges. Hope that's not a fridge. And the general rule of thumb is 1 cooker for every 1 cooker for every cook, 1 fridge for every cook, and 1 sink for every 2. That's just the general rule of thumb. And here's another thing, is that these cookers and fridge are high voltage, but to save a little bit on cable, when you put the cooker, they'll have their own wire underneath them. So I'm only going to put 1 here and 1 here, and since these 2 are right next to each other, it'll power up both of them. And likewise, our sink needs to be high pressure water. So we're just going to go and put that there. And now our workers need to go and build everything. But if we look at this, it's less than 24 hours, which means our prisoners have arrived. And there you go, they get let through the door, and the door shuts behind them, and they're nice and safe. So we're going to just play this in normal speed. Now our prisoners are going to hop out. We only had 3, just so we can not have to worry about having too many prisoners right away. Now if you look up here, it shows you the distribution of prisoners. So right now we have 2 minimum security, 1 normal, 0 max, and 0 of the other kinds of prisoners. Now also, if you look at without hovering over it, you can see that it's 3 out of 0, which means we have 3 prisoners in here, and we have room for 0 prisoners, which means the normal cells, each prisoner has their own cell, except we don't. We haven't built them yet. So all the prisoners are going to be staying in this holding cell. So it's a good thing we put in these beds so that they have a chance to sleep, because it may take us another night before we can build in normal cells. So we're going to finish up this basic detention center. What's going to happen is our guards are going to go and take the prisoners one at a time into this room here that we built. Now this is a reception, so they're automatically going to be looked at search. So this icon here means to search. And now if you if you click on the prisoner, you can get a little bit of information about them. You can look at them, and right now you can all look at these. And right now we're going to go into this in more detail later on, but this is just good things to know. But the here thing is, you can search the prisoner by clicking this button here. You can also change its security level, and again we'll cover up the use of that. But the big one is you can just search the prisoner. So if you suspect that they have a knife or a weapon or some drugs, you can manually search the prisoner right here. Now as you can see, our workers are getting caught on this jail door, and they need the guards to open the door. So it's not a bad idea to hire a couple more guards. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but that's going to be fine. And every time I hire a guard, the amount of money we make every day is going to go down. So it's a good idea to keep this positive. Now, right now, all prisoners are being searched. This one, as you can see, there's a drug on the ground. It's like a little pill. This prisoner here had drugs, and so he's going to be sent to solitary. And we haven't built any solitary, so that may be a thing we have to build right away, just to make sure that he can receive his proper punishment, and so he can get sent off to the rest of the prison. But we need to hurry to get the rest of our kitchen and canteen done, and we need to build a shower quick. Alright, so here's a mistake we made, is that right now our sink is not being lined up properly. So it's flashing, which means it's not receiving the water. So we need to put the pipe right there, so it's underneath the middle portion of the sink. I thought it was one over, but I put the pipes in before the sink was even built. So whoops, that's my bad. And let's quickly put in our serving table. So let's just put in one serving table here, one serving table here, and we'll just put in one table on each side, and then a bench to go on either side. So right now it's just going to be, this is going to be room for 8 prisoners, because each bench can have 4 prisoners. So right now it's room for 8. We only have 3. So there we go. And so once we have that, our canteen will be ready. Once this pipe gets put in, our kitchen will be working properly. Now all we need is a shower, and we'll have our basic detention center. So we're just going to build this building quick. Now we're going to put this entrance right. Put an entrance right here. And this is going to put a shower in here. And I'm not going to have the whole thing shower. In fact, I don't even plan on having this be permanent. One thing I like to do is, I know I'll explain this in the next episode in more depth, I like each cell block to have its own shower. But right now we're going to have one big communal shower just so we can satisfy the requirements and make sure we have everything in the prison working. Now preemptively, I know we're going to need water for our shower. So we're going to bring this big pipe down. And you're going to want to use the little pipes to go inside the rooms, and you don't want the big pipes to go inside the rooms except for things like the sink. And the reason why is, I believe prisoners can actually walk through this big pipe if they can somehow get into it, but they can't get through the little pipes. So if you keep all the big pipes outside and only have the little pipes going inside, then they can't get inside this big pipe, and they can't sneak their way all the way up to over here. But that doesn't matter so much because I kept these 2 things inside this walled off area. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I'm going to speed this up. But before we do, right now we have our 2 prisoners chilling out right here. And we have our 1 prisoner is waiting to go into solitary. So we do need to build that solitary quickly. And we're going to put that inside of here. Now solitary is it's like going and being locked in a jail cell, except traditionally it's a much less comfortable cell. I like to put windows in all my ordinary cells because I can look out the window, and that actually satisfies one of their needs. So windows are kind of expensive, but I like putting them in the normal cells. But solitary, I don't like having windows. I don't like it having to be very big. It's generally, I like to keep my solitary very, very small. I'm going to speed this up. So we're just going to finish up today's episode by building the shower and solitary. Alright. Now for the shower, we can just designate the shower here. And then we're going to put in a wall here. Now, for shower, we can just go over to objects and look at this. Only 2 things you need for a shower. In fact, you don't even need one of them, but the drain. And the drain makes it so that water doesn't spill out everywhere. So you just put them on the entrances, and only the inside of the shower will get wet. And then you put these drains on. You don't have to put them on the walls, but I like putting them on the walls. So right now we have our 8 shower heads, so we can have 8 prisoners. So tomorrow we're going to want 5 prisoners because we are going to have room for 8. There we go. And so that's going to be built. We're going to have the walls. I'm just going to build a very, very small room for our solitary. So we're just going to be just a bunch of, I'm going to actually put a bunch of solitaries in. This is going to be a big solitary block. And we heard that ding sound. That means we completed our grant. So now that our shower has 1 shower head in it, the shower is considered to be complete, and we completed our basic detention center. Yay! We're gonna need some power though, so we're just gonna go right here, build some more power. Now you're gonna see that my solitary cells are very small. I like solitary to be very uncomfortable for my prisoners. So I'm just gonna put a bunch of these solitary doors in. Then we're gonna go to rooms. We're gonna go to solitary, and you can do this. It's advised not to, but it's gonna ignore the red section and then place in the sections that are green. And so these are all gonna be solitary, but none of them are closed. And soon we put the door in, it's gonna be enclosed, and we're gonna have a bunch of solitary cells. So this is gonna be a bunch of solitary for quite a while actually. And now that we have a single solitary, there we go. Our little druggie over here is going to be taken by the guard. It's going to be sent into solitary, and it's going to be locked in there for 2 hours. Now, just before we finish up, let's just go and put these pipes in. There we go. And this is being sped up, so he's going to be locked in there for 2 hours. And since we're speeding up time, we got the power in. So yes, this is going actually really well. If you're really struggling early on, just lower the number of prisoners you have and make sure you build everything. But right now we have everything we need for a basic prison, except for something we're going to put in the next episode, which is going to be building cell blocks for our prisoners. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.